I talk about how when I was a kid, I used to steal cigarettes from my mother's
Mhm.
pocketbook. And just before she beat me with the vacuum cleaner pipe, she'd say to me, one of these days, Julia, one of these days, your bad habits are going to catch up with you. One of these days, Julia. And I would just look her right in the eye and I go, oh, yeah? Who's Julia?
Hey everybody, this is your host, Vinyl Man Jeb of Unlikely Places Pop and Rock Radio Show. I'm here with Julia Scotti. Julia, how are you?
But do I call you Vinyl or do I call you Mr.
Jeb, whatever's easier. Yeah, whatever's easier.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, the real name's Jeremy. The Jeb name is like the
No,
studio
Jeb's cooler.
stage.
That's a
Thank you.
cooler name.
Thank you.
So what's up?
So what's going on? Yeah, well, the first question I got for you, we'll get right into it. What
Sure.
got you into comedy?
Oh, well, I kind of, as a kid, always was attracted to it. I mean, I was a big Abbott and Costello fan as a kid.
Oh, very cool.
And I was, they're from Jersey, which is where I'm from. So that was like my brush with fame as a young child. And then I was a musician. I started out as a drummer, and drummers don't get any respect in the band. So I was always goofing up and, cutting up and getting fired. So I found out that there was a amateur show, the very first one in New Jersey back in 1980, and I auditioned for it, and I got passed, and I was on my way.
Oh, very cool. I mean, and you've come a long way. I mean, being on America's Got Talent in 2016 all the way up till now, and being in a few things. We'll get right into that as well.
Okay.
I wanted to ask before we get into that, how did you get to know Carole, and how did the Funny Women come about for you to be involved?
I've known Carole since 1980. We were, we were back in the city, New York. There were like three major clubs, the Improv Catch and the Strip, and we all knew each other from that. And then Jersey gigs started happening, so we all kind of got to be friendly. So yeah, she's doll. I love Carole.
Yeah, she's great. We had her on our show. Actually, our last episode. You'll be the one right after, and then we're gonna have Leanne right after. We're gonna get all three.
Great.
All three.
Yeah, she told me she did it. She said
awesome.
You were wonderful.
Oh, she wore a monkey shirt, so we instantly connected because I was like, music is what the podcast originally was. Then we kind of started reaching out a little bit, and I want to do anything in the arts, creative.
Okay, she also said that you sent her $50, so I'll be.
I did.
Yeah, you can Venmo me.
Okay, will do.
Yeah.
And then I wanted to ask too. So you knew Carole for then? Is that around the same time you got involved in the Funny Women show, or did that?
No, Funny Women didn't exist until about 5 years ago, and I've been in it for 43 years. She's been in it almost just as long.
Wow.
The Funny Women show, she was her brainchild. She worked very, very hard to get it on Showtime, and I actually was supposed to have been on the first special, and what happened was I wound up getting open heart surgery about a month before the taping.
Oh, wow.
I know. And I thought I could make it. I was saying, I sound like Babe Ruth at Yankee Stadium. I can make it, Carole. I'll be there. And, obviously I couldn't, but she said to me, excuse me, if there's a second special, you'll be on it. You'll be the first one I call. And she did.
Oh, sweet.
So it was,
sweet.
Again, she's a mensch. She's a great person. I love her to death.
America's Got Talent. We're going to get into this. In 2016, what brought you to America's Got Talent? We'll talk about that. So how'd you get there?
They found me. They have talent scouts that scour the internet, and they're looking for stories. And when I had just come back to comedy after, an absence, and I was starting to get some press, local stuff mostly, but I guess they picked up on it. And, my story is kind of unique. And, so they asked my then manager if I'd be interested in auditioning, and I said no because I didn't want to do a game show.
Oh, gotcha.
Well, she said, "Are you insane? They're practically offering it to you on a plus." I said, "Yeah, I'll go to the audition." And I did. I got on, and it changed my life.
Do you have any favorite judges?
Glad you asked that question. Hands down, Mel B. My favorite. She's my favorite.
Oh, she's awesome.
Favorite. She's
awesome.
She's a trip. She's a character.
And what's one of your favorite comedy skits of your own? I don't know if they're all like your children. I know, like music for me, it's hard to pick a favorite song. But do you have a favorite one?
I do have a favorite joke that nobody ever gets.
Oh.
And I talk about the joke is, it's not. See, I don't tell jokes, but I talk about how when I was a kid, I used to steal cigarettes from my mother's pocketbook. And just before she beat me with the vacuum cleaner pipe, she'd say to me, one of these days, Julia, one of these days your bad habits are going to catch up with you. One of these days, Julia. And I would just look her right in the eye and I go, oh yeah, who's Julia? But that's my favorite joke. I don't ask me why.
That's awesome. And you know, it's all in the delivery too. It's part of the
funny,
secret, but it's so good
at a show. Yeah, it's my Twilight Zone joke because it's so weird. You really have to think about it,
Yeah, you have to kind of really work into but my brain got it, and then it was like, but would I be able to explain it? No, but I got it. Like I felt the understanding of it.
That's what I love about it. It's just one of those jokes that when I wrote it, I went,
that's awesome.
Wow. That I don't normally compliment myself, but that one I did. I was like, wow.
Where does the inspiration come from? Do you have any comedians that you look up to, or any of to kind of inspired you to get into it?
Well, the usual. When I first started, Lenny Bruce was an early influence.
Yes.
Carlin, of course.
I was just watching Carlin last night. Actually, I was watching one of his HBO specials. He's great.
Robert Klein, Mortzell, Joan Rivers, even.
All masters.
There's so many. There are masters. In that.
Yeah.
And today I love people like John Mulaney. I watch. He just. I don't know, something about him I really enjoy.
I liked his joke with one of his early ones. And his show Big Mouth was pretty cool too. When they got really into like the cartoon side of it, he was one of the writers for it. But I liked his joke about the Tom Jones going to the diner, and I don't know if you've heard the one where he goes to a diner and he puts on. Basically, the whole joke is how to make people cry. Hearing it's not unusual, and basically you have to follow a recipe of putting What's New Pussycat 7 times on the jukebox. Oh, it's a great one. I'll send it to you. I'll send it to you over Instagram.
I'd love to hear it.
It's a great one.
I believe it's him. I just saw him on an episode of The Bear. Do you watch the show?
Yeah, I've heard of it. I have. Oh, he's on there. Okay.
He makes a cameo. It's at the Christmas show. Jamie Lee Curtis is in this episode.
Okay.
And all of a sudden he shows up as the nerdy cousin or something. Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
I've heard about the show. I'm going to check it out.
Yeah, you should. You love it.
Right now I'm in the drama phase where I'm watching like the OC from like 2000s, where it's all.
Well, The Bear's a drama too.
Oh, okay, cool.
I'll
probably enjoy it then.
Drama, really, Julia?
That's all good. That's where the editor comes in. AI voices replaced like drama, but yeah. And one of my other questions was, what was it like performing at Dry Bar? I know that's a lot of been really big for me. I learned about it during COVID. Was a lot of not to being able to watch a lot of stuff, and YouTube just went big time with Dry Bar. And it was awesome seeing all these different specials.
That was another one I wasn't sure I was going to do. My manager called me, different manager now, and he said, you want to do Dry Bar, and all my friends had done it, and and I said, well. I don't know if the Mormons are going to get what I do,
right?
And they don't, and at the which is a misnomer really, because while you film it in Utah, the audience is not all Mormon; it goes worldwide.
Oh, okay, yeah.
It's one of those things I don't track much to see, how it's doing, but it was fun to do. They were terrific to me. They asked me to come back anytime I wanted to.
Oh, awesome!
It's a beautiful set. You haven't been to Utah?
No, I would love to go just to see.
You could see why Joseph Smith wound up there and went. Oh,
yeah,
all right, we'll stay here. Yeah,
we'll stay here. Yeah, we don't have to worry
beautiful,
about anything.
Beautiful, beautiful.
Yeah, I've only really been to Jersey. I've been to Jersey. I've been to Seaside Heights. I've been to Wildwood. That was like my childhood. Was always going to Wildwood. Okay. But mostly stayed in Connecticut. The biggest I think I went was Florida, because I went last year and I'm going again this year to enjoy some shows. I'm going to go see Graham Nash down there. So
where?
He's playing in Clearwater. There we go. I couldn't remember.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But I can't wait to see him. I'm a huge Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young fan, and I've never gotten to see.
For somebody so young that you're.
Oh, thank you.
You got good taste,
People getting into comedy. I always like to throw some advice in there. Don't.
It's a pat answer, but if you can.
It's funny. Carole had the same answer. That's why I'm laughing.
It's hard. It's the hardest thing you'll ever do in your life. Well, not the hardest, given childbirth. It's probably harder.
Right. Which I would not know.
No, but as a career, there are no promises. You're not going to make any money if you do for a long time. Your family's going to, hate you. You're going to see all your friends become successful around you.
Yeah.
And you're still, and they'll come up to you at parties, go, You still doing that comedy thing that you were
Yeah.
doing? You know, so it's. But if you love it, it's a calling. It's really like a religious calling.
It's similar to music to me because I'm a musician. I've been in the music business for a while. I run a record label. I run this radio show that we're now moving. And finally, I have to give up on owning. Like, I can't be a host anymore because there's so much going on that I actually have to hire people in so I can keep the show name, which means that we improve. That means I set it up in the world. I set this up. It's my baby. And now I'm letting somebody else. And it's a hard change. But I realize that's where the money is behind the scenes, you know, marketing, making sure our promos are going out. And I enjoy it. And a lot of people don't. It's a special calling with that, marketing and all that kind of stuff. But I always kind of sense the arts still call me. There's times where I'll be sitting there like, I got enough. I don't want to go out and do a gig right now. But my guitar is like, we need to go out and play. You know, we need to go. And that to me it's such a special feeling that money doesn't make the answer for that. It's priceless.
I was going to say, well, first of all, comedy is like the Hotel California. You know, you can check out anytime you want, but you can never leave. You're always going to come. I was gone for 10 years and I came back.
Wow.
But you don't do it for the money. It's not the money. It's like music, you know, you do it for that moment. It's transcendental. I mean, you really, I always say I never feel so alive as I do when I'm on stage. They're just,
that's amazing.
My consciousness is altered, but I'm somewhere else while I'm still dealing with the audience. It's the same with music, you know, you know that.
Yeah.
It is a calling. Yeah.
Like, to me, that's why I always wondered, like, Carlin, he meant something. Like, to me, George Carlin, to me, was like an answer that wasn't from back then. It was the answer for today when, like, what's going on now. And he's not even around to be able to say that was me. And I watch all his stuff and I feel better. I feel like, okay, that guy is crazy on stage, but at least the things in my brain that I can't say out loud, he can do it for me.
Yes.
He could be able to do that. And, you know, I liked when you said, like, you don't, you know, it's not for the money, because it really isn't. It's so much more than that. I mean, like, even like where I'm working with Wall Street, I met the Thunderbirds last 2 nights ago. Fabulous Thunderbirds. Yeah. Kim is a powerful musician. I mean, the guy did a harmonica solo for 10 minutes and it was like, whoa.
Wow.
And it was an honor to go down backstage and meet all these guys in the dressing room. And I'm going there. I'm at 23 wide open going, these are rock stars. These are guys I grew up idolizing, you know, and getting to get the picture just for the Wall Street. But for me, it was more than that. It was more than just a picture. It was talking with these guys and hearing the stories. And
it's touching history, really.
It is.
I had a podcast. I have a podcast that I do, and I got to interview Bill Persky.
Ooh,
do you know who he is?
It sounds very familiar.
Him and his partner Sam Denoff. They wrote 29 episodes of the Dick Van Dyke Show.
Oh wow, okay, yeah.
And he's 91 years old now, and as sharp as a tack. And I was the same way. I was fangirling him all over the place. I'm seriously. We did it like this, you know, podcasting. But I was gushing all over this guy, and I asked him about my favorite episodes, and he was telling me. Awesome. He told us stories. Oh, he was so good. So I know that feeling. Yeah.
You know, and what's funny with me is, like, no matter how big or small the guest is, I'm just this way personally. I'm always excited to hear a story. So that's why I started the podcast. Yeah. So stories get me excited. When you live life like that, the only stress that comes from is the outside sources that you can't control. You know, but other than that, man, I'm pretty honored and happy to do what I do, and I love that music was what started it, but it's starting to grow more. And I'm realizing music and comedy, they're all similar energy. They're similar. It's the creative thing. Yeah. And Carole was like, if you ever want to give it a shot, let me know. And I'm like, I'm thinking about it. I got a few jokes.
Stand up a shot?
Yeah, I'm thinking about it. I might.
It's like the beginnings are hard. The beginning, because you don't know where you're going. You have no sense of who you are up on stage. So you wind up emulating your favorite comics, which we all did at the beginning. Yeah.
That's what I always figured when people say, well, people copy, it's like they copy to a point, but at the beginning, it's you haven't found your identity yet. So you're still trying. And even in music, too, you emulate the same guitar sounds as who you're trying to go for.
Sure, of course. Typically 7 to 10 years to find your voice on stage as a comic. Yeah, as a comic. So, I mean, you get the rare prodigy, very like Robin was like, you know, Robin.
Yes, Robin Williams.
But he was in a.
I think that's what ultimately was his downfall too, which in a sense was an upfall too, because he couldn't help it. I mean, that was who he was. I love Robin Williams so much, and what an inspiration. And when he passed, I was devastated. I'm like, even as a musician, he was a musician too, I believe, for a little bit too.
I believe he played guitar. Yeah. Well, Alan Arkin was a musician.
Oh, really? I didn't know that. Oh, wow.
Oh my God, Alan Arkin.
That's awesome.
Oh, you didn't know this? Yeah.
No, I didn't.
He was in a folk group.
Oh, wow.
And this before he
that's
became
cool.
a comic actor.
Oh, I feel a little bit better then. So maybe the failed music career could go right into the. No, I'm just kidding. Right into the comedy.
Alan Arkin wrote the Banana Boat song. You know,
Oh,
Deo.
yeah. That's that's Beetlejuice. Yeah,
yeah.
the
Well,
Beetlejuice
yeah,
movie,
but
but it
Harry
was way before
Belafonte,
that. Yeah,
and
I didn't know that.
he was one of the founding members of the Second City troupe.
Oh, wow.
So,
Okay.
yeah, read up on Alan Arkin.
I will. Yeah, because it was like Carole blew my mind that Rodney Dangerfield had a different name. I mean, I understood that he had a different name.
Yeah,
like
he did.
It makes sense. But she was telling me she used to hang out with him when she was young. And I'm like, that's cool. Because there's a guy on Dry Bar I was watching. I forgot his name. And it was literally shot for shot Rodney Dangerfield. It was like everything, his mannerisms. My dad and I are sitting there going, it's kind of hard to like laugh at his jokes because all you can think about is turning on Rodney. It was like,
Rodney was one of us. I mean, Rodney was, we all worked this club. We all
that's awesome.
Hung out with him at some point or another. Maybe not, for long periods of time, but he was very accessible. Particularly when he was sitting at the bar and his, with his robe on and his underwear. But he was a character. He was not, not unlike his stage persona, which is his real name. Carole's right, is Jack Roy.
Jack Roy, that's right. Okay.
Yeah,
I was trying to remember because we released her episode and I was trying to find where, because I was trying to tell somebody something and I was like, I think it's Jack something, but Jack Roy.
Yeah,
okay,
Jack Roy.
That's cool.
Couldn't get arrested as a comic. He just couldn't for years. And he was selling aluminum siding when he started to hit. I mean, he was in and out of the business.
So he put the energy in, then was out for a little bit, and the energy kind of came back, which is interesting.
Yeah, friends with Lenny Bruce, friends with all those guys from back in the day. But it just, he landed on this character, and
a great one too, because you could believe it. You thought that was him, like that was the man. And I love watching like the film. I forget the name of it, but I know I've seen it a million times when he goes back to college there with his kid there.
Back to school there. Right?
Yeah.
The only joke I ever sold, I don't sell jokes, but the only joke I ever sold, I sold to Rodney.
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
I still have a copy of the check somewhere in my archives.
That's awesome.
He paid $50 a check. Yep.
Wow.
Which was a lot back then. He was very generous. Joan Rivers, I think, only paid $10 or $20 a check. Wow. There were a couple of them that bought material because.
Oh, so some of the greats had writers. Okay, cool to know. Like they had.
Rodney bought them.
I didn't know that.
Okay. About this, Rodney would go on to the Tonight Show with Carson,
right? And
he'd do a 6-minute set, killer set.
Yeah.
Now you're burning up 6 minutes of material that you can never use again. Then he'd go and he'd sit down and do panel for another 6 minutes and kill it all over again with completely different material.
Wow.
So you can't, you got to keep replenishing that. People aren't going to want to hear the same stuff every time. So he would buy it. And he was so easy to write for. I mean, that formula, it's probably the easiest for.
Well, that's what kind of like the Jeb name became for me with the musician stuff. We kind of like at the beginning, it was just me. It was in high school. There was another kid named Jeremy who was more popular. And I was tired every time they called Jeremy, it wasn't me. So it became Jeb was easier. And it stands for my name. And then Beatles boy. My dad was kind of came up when I was younger. And I love the Beatles. So it was perfect. Now it's Badfinger that I love more, but I love them too.
If you want it.
Yeah, there we go. I love that song too as well. I was in a Badfinger tribute band for like one show. We did a Beatles fest. I wanted to do the Beatles fest so bad that I was like, I'm putting together a band, telling the guy that we were been a band forever, but really it was just a bunch of solo studio musicians that I knew. We just made it work, and it worked out really well.
Oh, you're an old soul. I am.
I've been told so many times. It's hard when you're like 23, and then people are like, you're 30, right? I'm like, no, like I'm 23. I'm trying to catch up.
Well, I'll tell you, I over the summer I was hanging out about a couple of times with Eddie Brigati.
Oh, very cool.
From the Rascals. And talk about being fangirl. And I mean, like I couldn't believe it. We're sitting having dinner. I'm going, I can't curse on here, can you?
Yeah. No, you can. I'll censor it. I'll be bloop or whatever.
It's fucking Eddie Brigati. I saw him when I was a kid at Palisades Amusement Park.
Awesome.
There
you go.
I worked there in the summer as a young kid.
Yeah. That's one of my favorite songs is Freddie Cannon's Palisade Parks. I love
written
the song. Chuck Barris. There we go.
Barris, yeah.
Yeah, because I'm thinking the new version, but the original is the one that my dad showed me too. Oh, he only died at 87. Wow.
Yeah. So Chuck Barris wrote that song because he was.
I didn't know that.
I think he was like the PR person for Palisades Park or something. I don't know what his connection was.
Well, it's a great jingle turned amazing hit for a song. I mean, when I saw a band, they do the Corvettes, they do a lot of doo-wop stuff, and I love it. I'm a sucker for doo-wop. I'm a huge Frank Zappa fan, so everything that his brain was ever with music, I would like all those info, and that just made me go fly into it. But with doo-wop, I always loved those original tunes, and this band, they did Palisades Park so well, and I was like, I've never heard this before. All right, this is my all-time favorite song now. Like, it doesn't change once you find that one song.
It was a great place. I worked there.
That's cool.
Two summers or 3 summers.
Wow.
And you got to see everybody that went through there. They had these concerts every weekend, and the shows were free. You just go sit down and watch them. I'm seeing the Blues Projects coming in there. The Rascals came in there. I mean, you name them, they came.
Oh, that's
through.
awesome.
Yeah, it was great. It was pretty cool.
Yeah, I still fan every podcast I do. I get a little anxious before them, so I know it's the right field. When you get anxious and anxiety a little bit before something, you know it's the right thing. If you're kind of going into it like, I got this, it's not the right thing. It's not the path. You got to have a little bit of resistance. But I the biggest interview I've had with our show, we've had a few, but Joey Molland of Badfinger was probably the biggest.
Oh, I thought you were going to say me.
You are as well. We're gonna put you up on the top of the list there. But I was saying before. But yeah, no, it's just super exciting to have all these. It's grown into this big thing that it used to just be me. It was me doing all the editing, me doing everything, and then we had to actually hire people. When you have to hire people, it's like, okay, now it's a real thing.
Then you're on
now
your
it's
way.
something. It was my baby. Unlikely Places came from a place of just like, I needed something, an outlook, and I've always liked radio, and then music wasn't making it for me. I had a few songs hit, and then it was nice, like on the chart, like indie radio charts. And then after that, I was like, I just want to write, and I created a character of the radio show. And I wrote a Twilight Zone type radio drama. I'll have to share that with you. It's basically like my version of War of the Worlds. I've been working on that for a long time, but it's, I loved how something like that could do, like, made people think that there was an alien invasion outside, how powerful that is. But you had to look at the time period and go, okay, there was no television. There was not as much. And the radio was very important. Those fireside chats, those things back then were so important. Right. That's why War of the Worlds worked. So today it wouldn't work because people would just go walk outside and go, yeah, no, nothing's happening. Like, but back then it mattered.
I listened when I'm in the car mostly, but I listen to Sirius Radio. They have a classic radio channel where they play all these programs. Oh, cool. And I just listen to them all the time. I mean, I love Jack Benny. I'm a Jack Benny freak. And when the Jack Benny show comes on, you talk about a master. I mean, plus the writing on the show was so good. It holds up. Most of it holds up today. Which is like, for me, like Monty Python tests the scale of that too. Like, I love the Bonzo Dog Band. I love, like, anything that Monty was involved with, any of those members in and out. They seem to have lasted past a certain, the early stuff, like Do Not Adjust Your Set is tough to watch today because it's like, okay, I get the humor, but it's like but Monty Python, I mean, Life of Brian, The Holy Grail, they don't lose the funny. Like, they're still, to me, just major comedic projects, and I love them. Well, watch if you ever watch your show of shows on do you know what that is?
I've heard of that.
All right,
okay.
Sid Caesar.
Okay.
Sid Caesar, Carl Reiner was on the show. Mel Brooks was one of the writers.
Oh, perfect.
Among others. So Sid Caesar, your show of shows. If you can see shows, complete shows on YouTube, but look for the one with you. They did it. This Is Your Life kind of show.
Okay.
And understand when you watch it, the sketch is just brilliantly, hysterically funny.
Awesome.
But understand that those shows were live, 90-minute comedy shows.
Oh, wow.
Live.
And this is before SNL and all that started.
This is 1950.
Oh, wow.
55, maybe awesome. 52, somewhere, 53.
Because SNL always inspired me, like John Belushi and all the early cast.
But go and watch this one.
Okay,
your show of shows. And that's the one. And This Is Your Life sketch. And I guarantee you're going to write me after you watch it. And
sure,
tell me.
We'll do.
it's not
Yeah, I
the
got some
best
time
thing
today.
you've
I'll
ever
do that.
seen. Yeah.
Julia, thank you for coming on the show. I'll edit this up. We have a really nice episode here. I'm very excited to get this one out.
Good. I'm glad.
I'm going to try to
Thank
push
you.
this out as soon as I can so we have prep for the show. And I can't wait to meet you at Wall Street Theater. It's going to be fun.
Yes.
Awesome. My mom's going to be my +1. She's going to enjoy the show. So
okay, do we want to plug the date of the show?
Sure. Yeah, I'll do that at the end here, but I'll do a voiceover after. But we have July 29th, Wall Street Theater, The Funny Women. We have Julia Scotti, Carole Montgomery, and Leanne Lord as well.
Yes, the Funny
July
Women
29th.
of a certain age.
That's right.
That's right.
Funny Women of a Certain Age, July 29th, Wall Street
direct from
Theater.
Showtime. We're from Showtime.
Ooh, look at that.
Yeah, the special was on Showtime.
That's